Last time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
You know, you don't have to go clear to China just to get away from this episode. I'm all ears. Are you all ears? You got to be all ears if you're on Audio Umox, the leading Deep Space Nine podcast with me, your host, Simon Van Gelder, and my erstwhile companion,
John Christopher.
Hey, John, man, it has been some days.
It has been a while, yes. So how are you doing, pal?
Oh, I'm all right. I guess we should kind of just, our faithful listeners are wondering where we've been for a couple of weeks. Now, you went to China.
I did.
We did a Red Alert episode about that.
Yes, and strangely enough, you're the one who got sick.
Yeah, that's so funny.
So I travel halfway around the world. I attended some trade shows and met with some vendors and from all over the globe. Spent most of my time in Hong Kong and southern China, but it was a good trip. So I always enjoy, much like the original Star Trek cast, I truly enjoy going to new places, exploring new cultures and those type of things. And it's not my first time to China. I've been there probably a dozen times, but I always enjoy it. I gain weight when I'm there because the food is fabulous. Oh, yeah. And then I have the advantage of I have some local people that will assist me with any language or cultural issues that I may encounter while I'm there. So it's a fantastic experience. I feel honored and blessed to be able to do that kind of stuff and get paid for it. So anyway. Yeah, so it was fun, but it did take me out of country for 2 solid weeks, and so I am certainly happy to be back.
Yeah, well, and I remember, you always have an international data plan, so you can always text me, and you text me pictures of all those meals you were eating that looked incredible, and I can't say the view in China was always all that great, but I mean,
no,
it's
although I again, with them being part of the Paris Accord, participating, they are really cracking down on environmental issues. There were no fewer, while I was there were tens or hundreds of heavily polluting plants that were just closed down by the Chinese government. So for the environment, great. For those business people that own those businesses, not so great. So there's there are pros and cons to that situation.
Well, the Chinese have figured out that you're not going to ever become the number one superpower if there's no planet left. So
yes,
it's
if
just
everyone's poisoned.
It's that simple. Yeah, we only have this one pale blue dot to live on, folks.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
So, well, yeah, it is ironic that you go away and expose yourself to all sorts of, toxins and bacterium and strangeness.
Yeah.
No,
viral agents,
opportunistic infections, things like that. No, but I had been ill prior to you leaving a little bit with an infection. I won't go into it, but it wasn't pleasant. And it got progressively worse to the point where I had to go on pretty much what they call the nuclear option. It's a pair of antibiotics. If anybody knows Cipro and Flagyl, you're probably groaning as you think about having to take them, but I had to take them. Well, long story short, midway through my course of those, I had a very serious anaphylactic reaction to one of them, probably Flagyl, and had to go to the emergency room because my entire mouth was swelling up. My lips were I was like a Kardashian, very, the very plumped up lips, that they like to highlight. And it was scary. I called my doctor, and he'd been tracking me for this infection. And I said, hey, I've got this problem. And he goes, you're going to the ER now. Is your wife home? And I was like, yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, he's like, good, go now. Take some Benadryl now and go. Anyway, long story short, They put an IV in me, put some epinephrine and some steroids and some other stuff. And anyway, that was over 7 or 8 days ago, and only now am I finally starting to feel normal again. So we just couldn't record because the day we typically record was the night that I had the attack, basically.
Right.
Yeah, so it was not going to be good. And I've been literally bedridden for several days with this. Yeah. So,
but better now. Recovered.
Recovered enough to actually, although I got to tell you, because as we get into,
But first, the Tranya.
I'll just tell you this, though. Between the steroids and the antibiotics, my palate is somewhat tweaked by this, and nothing tastes very good. And so I was so looking for weeks, I didn't drink for over 2 weeks. Yeah. That's huge, folks. If you don't know me, my buddy knows this is huge because he's like, whoa.
Wow.
That's how I know, by the way, that I really don't have a serious drinking problem, because if I did, I wouldn't have made it.
And he is not showing a sobriety coin or anything over the airways.
Not at all. No. And so, but it's funny is like I was so the last Saturday night we went out for a date night with my wife, and we went to see Murder on the Orient Express, very good film, and it was at an Alamo Draft House where they have a wonderful bar, and they make the second best martini in town, or Vesper martini in town. And I had one, and it didn't taste very good. And I thought, I guess this bartender, she doesn't really know how to make it very well. So then I had another one later in the evening with dinner, and I knew that it was made by a different bartender, and it still didn't taste. It had a metallic taste to it. Well, basically, steroids and antibiotics and all these things can get together. And my point is, like right now tonight, my Tranya is I'm having a vodka and Lillet martini, and it doesn't taste very good to me at all.
Wow.
And I made it myself, and I like, I make it the way I like it, so I'm wondering.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully it's not a permanent change, because I've heard of people that get zinc, get an injection of zinc, and have permanent effects to their ability to smell or their ability to taste.
Well, it's funny you should say that, but zinc is heavily part of some stuff I've been taking.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Hopefully it's not permanent.
I have a pretty fast metabolism. Things move through me pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, but if it doesn't, but it's okay, because here's the thing. I just finished off this particular bottle of vodka, which had sat around longer than any vodka in my house has sat around for years. I remember looking at it longingly, going, "Hello, old friend," But I'm literally eating baby food, because I can't tolerate the problem I had. You don't want to know about, folks, but I couldn't eat anything. But I still really can't eat much more than soft foods right now. But I'm better. But anyway, I would look at it. But so I was going to say, I almost went ahead and just jumped over to a winter drink. Which I'll probably be on next week, a whiskey of some sort. So anyway, didn't mean to hog that. I want to tell everybody.
No.
So please,
it's okay.
Forgive us for being gone.
And I'll jump in with my Tranya story. I've got first. So last night you were talking about bad tasting martinis. So I was going to make a Cosmo, and last night
for yourself.
For myself, yes. Yes, Inca and cranberry juice. Okay. Anyway, I'm mixing it, getting ready to mix it up, and I realize I have no cranberry juice. However, being the father of a young child, I do have grape juice in the house.
Oh, okay.
So I thought, the color's pretty close.
How bad could it be?
It is a fruit juice. How bad could it be? So I mixed that up. It was probably one of the worst drinks I had had. It was like having a martini with really, really bad or rancid vermouth in it. That kind of flavor where you get this hint of just turned grape
You know what? I've tried grape juice with vodka before, and it does.
Did you
It
have the
doesn't.
same
It
experience?
doesn't really work, does
It
it?
just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
There's
Okay,
something
so
about what the vodka does to the grape juice. Like
yeah, I
cranberry
don't
is a
know.
very hearty juice. Maybe that's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get that kind of bitter and the sweet, and then you add that with the vodka. Anyway, it didn't work out at all. I did muscle through it.
Of course you did. You don't waste any of your Tito's
Don't
or
waste,
something.
don't waste Tito's vodka. And but tonight I'm just having a Fulton Street brew. It's from Goose Island. It's another seasonal from them. It's like a coffee house ale is what I believe they coin it. But did want to say, just lift a glass and toast to Richard Gordon. Dick Gordon, one of the Apollo astronauts, he actually stayed in the I'm not sure which one. He stayed in the command module while a couple of others went down to the moon. So he brought a lot of fun and sarcasm to that group. He was one of their resident comedians in the among the Apollo staff, and he passed I guess about a week ago.
I missed that, and I'm a huge
yes,
Apollo
he
guy.
was 88, and he was a Gemini and Apollo guy. So to
he died on the 6th of November.
to Gordon.
Apollo 12. Yeah, let's cheers to one of the heroes, Richard Gordon. One of only 24 people
24
to orbit the moon.
To go to the moon.
And he didn't land, but he that's interesting. So, of course, it's a huge honor to orbit the moon. And
yes,
and it's Apollo 12. So that was the second group. So Apollo 11 was the first.
Yeah.
To land. There were Apollo. There was other Apollos that orbited.
Yes, that took a trip around and came back. Yeah.
And they tested the LEM, but they didn't actually get in it. Yeah, that's right. But
and then 13 was supposed to land, but didn't get to because of the disaster.
Yeah, the explosion.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something.
Sure.
How would you have felt about that? Would you have felt? It's like, geez.
Okay, so I will share a story that you're very familiar with. There's always those best of proclamations in your yearbook in high school.
Right.
Well, for me, I was rated the runner-up for most likely to succeed. And so I always you could take that one of two ways. Either you'll be remarkably successful, but there will be one person who's more successful than you. Or you could take it as you're going to get really, really close to success, but you won't quite get there. That's what I see with the moon.
Even though what they did was incredible.
It was incredible. You're that close, but can't quite touch it.
Well, this is interesting because, okay, folks, I went to college with this guy, and we were both presidents of the college student association. Here's the deal. We were both very prominent students at this school, very prominent. Some might say I was notorious, but
depends on who you ask.
Depends on who you ask. But here's he was valedictorian. I mean, this guy was. I was always in his shadow, especially academically. So, I don't worry. I made my mark. I'm not complaining, but I know what it's like to have somebody ahead of you, and you were always ahead of me, And and this guy got me through college math. I see that Gordon, though, was vice president of the New Orleans Saints. Yeah. The football team.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
The New Orleans Saints Professional Football Club, the National Football League. And he was their VP, and he also worked in oil and gas. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I didn't realize that he had passed. I'm a huge fan of the Apollo. We lost Eugene Cernan a few months ago. And I just watched this wonderful documentary about him and his life, like about 2 months prior to that. And then all of a sudden he winds up the last man on the moon, basically. He passed away. I'm wondering how many of these fellows are left. Alan Bean, I think Alan Bean is still living, who went to the moon on that trip. He's a wonderful artist. Pete Conrad's gone. That's something we have to think about sometime. That reminds me too, and I know, by the way, we do have an episode of Deep Space Nine we're going to get to.
We will cover briefly.
There was this. You know when I'm sick. So when I'm sick, I binge watched 2 seasons of Justified. I binge watched movies, and like one night I'm on. If you've ever been on prednisone on steroids, you don't sleep. I did not sleep 2 nights in a row. One night it was just purely because all I could do was, I couldn't sleep. You're hyper. The other night I also developed another side effect, which is the worst heartburn I've ever had in my life. I literally could not lay down. I had to sit up. And so you're wide awake and you can't lay down. So what do? You go watch TV. I couldn't concentrate to read because my mind was too jacked. Yeah. So I get on Netflix and there's one of these Apollo moon hoax documentaries that was on the Fox station 15 years ago. And I just watched it, just got furious, with it. These idiots and how poor. Look, anybody who doesn't think we went to the moon can suck it, okay? Because we went to the moon.
Well, now if you have a decent telescope you can actually see remnants of the landing. So you can actually.
Well, but they're still saying there's plenty of people who say that we had enough understanding and technology to land the landers, but not to actually go.
Have humans.
Well, but here's the thing. Well, then, so were the moon buggies that we sent up there just remote control? But they say that yes. And this is the one that annoys the shit out of me. Pardon me. Right. Is they had a flag on the moon and it waved in the breeze. No, they had a piece of wire in the flag to stiffen it. And when they moved that thing back and forth, when they were putting it in the ground, it shook it and it made it look like it was waving. But it's just like, are you an idiot? I mean, it's.
Well, I think that question answers itself.
Yeah, it's a good question.
And there are actually, there are flat earthers that still exist.
Well, this current climate we're in, we're speaking of climate, where we just these people who actually
my ignorance is as valid as your knowledge.
Yeah, the false equivalency of and this whole fair and balanced approach to everything is just stupid. Like if you want to know more about the moon hoax stuff and you have it debunked thoroughly, go to Phil Plate's Bad Astronomy blog and you'll find it. Just put Bad Astronomy plus moon hoax and you will find chapter and verse on how idiotic these people are. So anyway, hats off to Dick Gordon. Hats off. Helmets off to them. So I guess we should, so all that said, this huge long preamble as...
Are we going to dive into The Forsaken?
We are going to dive into it. I was going to say one last thing, and I'm not going to give any. I'm not going to give any commercial to a competing podcast, but there is a very popular podcast that has moved on from the next generation to DS9, and they're behind us.
Yeah, but are they like blatantly stealing our stuff? I've not listened to it yet.
Well, I've been listening, and this is now. I don't think they're blatantly stealing us, but I've got to tell you something. They see a lot of the same things we see. Now, that doesn't mean they're stealing. That just means that they're observing things the way we do. But there's been a couple of things, and there's been a couple of episodes where I'm the easy, kind of the easy gag we go for. You know, I'm wondering. I mean, may totally be my hubris and not even in the realm of possibility. I'm wondering because these guys are pretty good. They're funny. They're funny as crap. But I'm just wondering if we had some obvious stuff that was down there that they could have picked up and used the same thing, but they don't But I don't think they're listening to us at all. So I don't think so. But
I don't know.
It's like some of the obvious gags that we think are so funny. But these guys are about 10 years younger than us, so a lot of the stuff culturally that we think is funny.
Right, because we were in college when this show aired.
And these guys were like in junior high and in high school.
Yeah, so they may have a much different perspective than we do.
And they're both like video and film production types, so they look at everything that way. Whereas, we both were actors.
We look at it more culturally,
but we look at it, but we're much more sociological about it than that. And comedy, and although I don't know, so it's interesting. But folks, I'm not going to tell you what the name of it is. You can go find it yourself if you want. We think that we're the best. And at the end of the show, after we get done with The Forsaken, we're going to talk to you a little bit about some housekeeping about about T-shirts and Facebook and some other stuff. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But right now, let's go get Forsaken. Take it away.
Very good. Oh, I have to do this?
Well, I've watched it twice. By the way, while I was sick,
Yeah.
I watched this again. Like while I was sick, and I took notes.
Yeah.
But I think I did the same with my notes.
Yeah, well, I mean, and for me, I'm looking. It starts at Quark's bar, and there are some a number of Federation ambassadors that are hanging out at Deep Space Nine, and they're at Quark's. I guess Quark's trying to show them a good time, so to speak. One of those ambassadors is Lwaxana Troi, who we've seen on The Next Generation, but she was also on the original series, and it's almost like hearing the voice of Siri, meeting Siri, because she was also the voice of the computer on the original, the Enterprise computer.
She was on the original and the TNG, wasn't she?
Yes,
On the original, she was working, but it was very robotic.
Yes.
And she also played. That's Majel Barrett Roddenberry, who also played number one in the original pilot, or the second series pilot. No, the original pilot. She played number one, the first officer.
Right.
Yeah.
And she made several appearances throughout. I just thought it was like, how would I react if I met Siri, the voice of Siri, and that's her. So anyway. But she's looking remarkably like Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus with her bright orange hair and blue dress, so I was like, "Damn it, Miss Frizzle!" That's a joke that you probably don't get because you didn't follow the Magic School Bus.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think we covered it in our Red Alert episode the other day.
Did we?
A little bit. So I guess it's lost on you.
It's lost on you.
Yeah.
All right. So at Quark, someone steals her brooch. So she's wanting to close down the whole joint, and there's some interesting discussion between her and Quark. She grabs him by the lobe. And
and by the way, frankly, that's like grabbing a guy by his goolies for them, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She didn't mess around.
She's got his lobe, and she starts talking about her. She's got some rings in her beta Z, and she's really got that going. Anyway, that was just the kind of the opening sequence. She wants to shut the place down to find her brooch, and Odo comes along and solves the problem because he knows enough about it as a culture to know that there are certain species or certain life forms that empaths cannot penetrate. Of those are Ferengi, but also Dopterians, I guess. And there's this Dopterian pickpocket that just happens to be there. Brooch is
creepy looking thing.
Yeah. Brooch is recovered, and Lwaxana is now in love with Odo and wants to, get closer, find out, what else he can turn into, I guess. So she wants to have a picnic. So that's storyline 1 is now introduced. Storyline 2 is the rest of these cats need someone to keep them happy, and so that happens to be our good friend Dr. Bashir. So he's drawn the short stick because he's the junior officer, and throughout the episode, there's a couple of stories of how that's just how junior officers get broken in, is by having to take care of ambassadors and that kind of stuff, and from a military background, I understand that there's always those types of jobs that people get when you're the junior officer. You get stuck with something, but as we get to the end of the episode, he does kind of make the best of it. So, third storyline, I'm kind of going quickly here. Third storyline is there's this computer thing, or a probe, and they discover this probe and start cracking it open, and it starts kind of wreaking havoc on the computer system as O'Brien is O'Brien, and O'Brien is having some issues, all kinds of issues with this Cardassian computer. It's got all kinds of sass going on.
Right.
And he can't take it anymore. He's ready to just I don't know, Control Alt Delete the whole thing. But then there's what is it? I'm trying to figure out what that probe thing is.
The probe thing.
Yeah. That then becomes the virus that traps them on the elevator, and then
what, the computer entity, the pup?
Yeah. How does that get introduced?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
So O'Brien is having problems with the Cardassian computer. It's got all kinds of back talk and sass going on, and he's kind of fed up with that, and he's been unhappy with that thing from the beginning. I mean, that's probably why they got such a senior officer to handle ops on a space station, kind of though close to a wormhole, kind of in the middle of nowhere, was because that thing it's a tough thing to run. But they had discovered earlier in the episode this probe, and they crack open the probe. Remarkably, now the computer is being much more cooperative, just all of a sudden. And it kind of baffles O'Brien. He knows something's different, but he doesn't know exactly what. So we now jump ahead. Lwaxana has managed to con Odo into into having a picnic. I think they're going to a holo suite for a picnic, I believe is what the plan was.
That was the plan, yeah.
Yeah, so they hop in the turbolift, head up, when all of a sudden it stops. It's not going anywhere. They can't force the doors open for whatever reason. Do you have any idea why they can't just force the door open?
I don't know. I think it's just so that they can have an excuse to bond.
Right. Okay. And because the doors are also not hermetically sealed, so I would think he would be able to liquefy himself.
Do what do you call it?
Pour himself through the door.
Terminator and just create like a thing and open it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He could turn himself into the jaws of life. He could. Right. Anyway.
A form of a giant ice wall urinal for that.
Exactly. Matter. Yes. Or he could have just poured himself down the turbolift shaft and whatever. But
is that what Lwaxana wanted to be?
Yes, she did. Frankly, yes. I think she wanted.
Did you? I mean, she basically said, "I've never been with a shapeshifter." She was like, she was clearly angling. Look, folks, we're not being innuendo for funny here. She clearly wanted Odo to fulfill her needs.
Yeah.
Oh God! Jeez.
And son.
Oh man.
Okay, so they're trapped and nothing's going right. They're stuck, and this is going to continue, and then the light goes on. Hey, oh by the way, after 18 hours, I turn into a puddle of goo. That's going to be embarrassing for me.
Is it 18 or 16? And it doesn't matter. Why do I keep thinking 16?
You could be right. I was thinking it was 18, and then he sleeps for 8, which makes 26 hours, which is
no, it's every 16. He says that. He says,
16?
I don't eat. This is not a real mouth. It is an approximation of one. I do not have an esophagus or a stomach or a digestive system. I am not like you. Every 16 hours, I turn into a liquid. And then Lwaxana goes, I can swim. I mean, she's... Oh, God.
Like Sally Van Pelt and Linus.
It's true. And he's just a big gooey blanket. You got to give it to Lwaxana, though. She knows what she likes, and she likes what she knows, and she doesn't know it. She wants to find out. So, I mean, you got to give that to her.
And as they bond throughout this ordeal, they both become, they both open up to each other. And I did find moments of that somewhat endearing. It's that just parts of the execution were really horrible. She takes her wig off to show, she's willing to expose herself and flaws or whatever, and then he turns and he looks like a melting candle.
he looks pretty rough there, yeah.
Yeah, and why does it? So again, suspend disbelief. I get it, but why doesn't he just turn into something that's a lot more simpler to maintain? Does it take the same amount of energy, or couldn't he just become a block? Or
I don't know. They don't really explain Odo's biomechanics very well, and I understand why they don't, because early on they don't want to get too. They will get more deeply into this as the series moves on. But yeah. So okay, but to wrap up the plot, really.
I mean, we got that. So that was one line. Line 2 is Bashir saves the lives of all these ambassadors by tucking them away somewhere while the room that they're trapped in is on fire. And then solving all the problems is O'Brien and Dax, who realize that this is all being done by a sentient computer program that doesn't know what to do. And so O'Brien solves the problem by instead of trying to extract the program, allowing it to live but giving it something to do. So he created what he called a doghouse that allows the programs and the daily operations to run through this thing without actually affecting the daily operations, under the assumption that when they took things away from the pup, the program, then it would act up in order to get attention. And so by making it kind of the center of the operations, even though it had no functionality, it was able to participate. Once that happened, they were able, everything cleared up, and they were able to run the program smoothly, and operations go back to normal. So there you go. Now Bashir's a hero.
Right.
He's beloved by the ambassadors whose life he saved. Odo and Lwaxana are, I think, in 2 or 3 states they're now married, since she carried his liquid in her lap. and
wow.
Episode over. Did I miss anything?
Probably, but it's this is a classic bottle episode. They were trying to save money. They used existing sets, did go crazy. Special effects maybe a little bit, makeup effects with Odo, but I have few takeaways from this one, but I want to stipulate that though I have few takeaways to discuss with this, part of the reason is because I don't have a lot to say about it. Is I don't find a tremendous amount of fault with it. I was dreading it going in, because most of the Lwaxana entries into the Star Trek universe I found to be tedious. But actually, I have to say this is probably one of her better moments as a character, touching and sweet, and it gave us entree into the life and the mind of Odo, which I think is important. It's we talked previously on other episodes about how there's so much exposition and expository stuff going on in this first season, because we have 7 or 8 main characters here, and they all need time to explain who they are. And this was, I think, a very effective means to show some vulnerability with Odo. It glosses over some of the stuff you mentioned, like, well, why doesn't he just revert to a simpler shape, or frankly, why is he so embarrassed to become what he is? But but that's interesting to me. That's conflict, and that's interesting. And Lwaxana, she made herself vulnerable by removing her ostentatious wig and just said, "This is the real me, not so exciting after all." And so it was good there. You see, Bashir gets to grow a little bit, because he finds some steel within himself to deal with the situation. I loved, what I really enjoyed too were the moments with Cisco, where he talks about when he belted somebody once and got out of this scut duty because he was an ambassador or somebody he hit because he was a young officer and couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
But you also see you see Cisco. This is so interesting to me because you see Cisco really the way he deals with the tedium of running the station is interesting because he clearly is obviously a delegator.
Sure. Which, if you go back to his
right
previous duty assignment,
right,
it's a lot about you've got a lot of laborers and day workers in a place that's building ships,
right,
and so that's that's the way his style should be.
Right.
In order to make things happen.
Right.
So.
It's interesting too, though, that one of the ambassadors, I believe he's the blue guy, so he's a Bolian, and he's like, I want to observe your first contact procedures, which reminded me of Captain what was it? I Am Tosk, and how they basically put first contact duties onto the handyman, Schneider,
right.
Schneider
Yes.
with the keys on his belt,
a big wad of keys.
Yeah, it's like. Yeah, that's interesting, and that was like the first species they met, right?
Yeah.
Tosk was decided that we'll just let Schneider handle that. So it was interesting to me. I thought that was kind of a funny callback to that in a way. Yeah. So I think there was some conflict. I think it was entertaining. I don't know. You have any general observations before we get to Latinum on this one?
No, I mean that's same thing. It seems to be one of those kind of standalone. It's easy to probably miss it through in the entirety of the series because it was probably thrown in anytime it was the series is rebroadcast. It was probably thrown in whenever there was not a lot going on or in one of those dead weeks, just to fill up space, as opposed to it being really critical or crucial to the plot. I did think it was not. It was nice. It was better than some in that first season, but not. It's just not a stellar episode. But it was. But I thought it was nice. It made me feel. I saw fear in Odo that I hadn't seen before. Right. I saw some self-doubt and more about his struggle to fit in with a race of beings that are different from him, very different. So that I all found interesting.
Me too. So, well, all right then. How much
Latinum
Latinum are you going to get? Out of 5 bars, how many bars to Latinum are you going to give this one?
I would give it, having given some others 2s, I would say this is a solid 3. No more than that.
I'm right there with you. Solid 3. I was the exact words. I was getting ready to say solid 3. It's
not a slip more.
Not a slip more. It's entertaining in its own way. Is it great? No. But is it embarrassing? Not at all. Does it forward forward the development of the characters? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
and I would say it's every bit as good as some of the last season episodes of Next Generation. Not all of them.
No, but that last season, frankly, is a little overrated. By the way, yeah. I rewatched that last season of Next Gen recently over the past few months, and there were some turkeys in there,
right,
that I'd forgotten about. Because you think about it, was it the 6th or 7th season of Next Gen that got nominated for Best Dramatic Series for Emmys? And so to my mind, I was always like, oh my God, season 7 must have been solid gold. No, there was some dog shit in there. It was season 6 and season 5 that were really the best, and the show really started turning better at season 3 and 4. But 4, 5, and 6, I submit, are the best seasons of Next Gen overall. And I think DS9, you'll see that seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7 to me are the best seasons of DS9. Yeah, so I'm 3 bars myself, and. So that brings us to next week, which I'm excited about, which is Dramatis Personae, which the crew becomes infected by a telepathic imprint of a culture that destroyed itself. So apparently they become Republicans. So that will be next week's episode. So this is great. So before we sign off, I was just going to say, we had an initiative to try to gauge our listenership and to build on that and get some reviews on iTunes. And what we were going to do is if we got 10 solid reviews on iTunes by Halloween, we were going to create a Facebook community and also start giving away monthly T-shirts designed by our own John Christopher. Well, we didn't get 10 reviews. We got 2.
Fell a little short, yeah.
Fell way short.